Most people think they're eating healthy. But here's the part nobody tells you. Two people can eat the exact same food, and their bodies respond completely differently. Not because of calories, not because of macros, not even because of genetics, but because of something almost no one pays attention to, whether that food is alive or not. Now think about this. For most of modern history, we've been slowly removing something essential from food without realizing it. We didn't notice because food still looked the same, still tasted similar, still filled the stomach. But something fundamental changed underneath it all. We remove biological activity, we sterilize food, we pasteurize it, we process it for shelf life, and on the surface that sounds like progress. Safer food, longer storage, less spoilage. But underneath that, we changed how food interacts with the human body, because your digestive system is not just a tube. It's a biological interface that communicates with your immune system, your metabolism, your hormones, and even your brain. So when the input changes, the output changes too. Across every culture in human history, long before modern science existed, people discovered something through observation alone. When food is allowed to transform naturally, it behaves differently in the body. That process is called fermentation. And what you're about to see is not a list. It's a repeating biological pattern. Same principle, different forms. 1. Yogurt. Walk into any supermarket and you'll see yogurt labeled as healthy, high protein, gut-friendly, probiotic. But here's what most people don't realize. Not all yogurt is biologically active. Traditional yogurt is made by allowing milk to ferment slowly. During that process, lactose breaks down into lactic acid, proteins change structure, acidity increases naturally. This is what makes it easier to digest for many people. But in modern production, something often happens after fermentation: heat processing. And that step can reduce or destroy active cultures. So visually, it's still yogurt, but biologically, it may no longer function the same way. Same category, different outcome. 2. Kimchi. Kimchi looks simple, but biologically it is not. It is not one ingredient fermenting, it is multiple systems interacting at once: cabbage, garlic, chili, ginger. Each contributes different compounds. As fermentation progresses, microbes spread across the entire system. Not isolated, not linear, dynamic. That creates diversity. And diversity matters because the gut microbiome does not respond to single inputs. It responds to complexity. Kimchi is not just food, it is an ecosystem in a jar. 3. Kombucha. At first glance, it looks like tea, but inside the container, a full biochemical cycle is unfolding. Yeast converts sugar into alcohol. Bacteria convert that alcohol into organic acids. Meanwhile, tea compounds continue interacting with both processes. So what emerges is not a static drink. It is a living transformation captured in liquid form. And here's the key point: no two batches are identical. Because this is not manufactured, it is grown. Now notice something important. We are not talking about healthy foods. We are talking about foods that remain biologically active when consumed. That distinction changes everything. 4. Kefir. Kefir is different from yogurt in one critical way. It is not a single culture, it is a symbiotic system of bacteria and yeast. That means fermentation is not linear, it is dynamic. Multiple organisms interact simultaneously, producing a wide range of compounds. And this matters because your gut is not isolated. It communicates with your brain through biological pathways. So what enters your gut influences stress response, mood regulation, cognitive clarity. You are not just eating, you are interacting with a system. 5. Sourdough. Same grain, different outcome. During fermentation, starch breaks down, acids form, gluten structure changes. This alters how the body processes it. Slower digestion, different glucose response, which reveals something important. The body responds not just to ingredients, but to preparation. At this point, a pattern should be clear. Different foods, different cultures, same principle. Transformation changes biological interaction, not metaphorically, biologically. 6. Tempeh. Tempeh is not just fermented soybeans, it is structural transformation. Loose beans become a dense, interconnected matrix. During this process, anti-nutrients are reduced, protein becomes more accessible. What you see externally reflects internal biochemical change. This is fermentation as biological rebuilding. 7. Garlic in honey. This is slow transformation, not instant food. Garlic contains compounds that degrade quickly. Honey stabilizes the environment, slowing breakdown and allowing gradual biochemical interaction. Over time, a controlled transformation occurs. Not fast, but stable and sustained. 8. Sauerkraut. Salt creates a controlled microbial environment. Lactic acid bacteria dominate, converting sugars into lactic acid. This changes acidity, fiber structure, digestibility. Vitamin C also becomes more stable in this environment compared to fresh cabbage. Sauerkraut is not preserved food, it is transformed food. 9. Fermented Pickles. Two identical-looking foods, completely different biology. Vinegar pickles are chemically preserved. Fermented pickles are biologically active. True fermentation creates living bacteria that continue interacting during digestion. Same appearance, different internal function. 10. Fermented Beets. Beets naturally contain nitrates linked to nitric oxide production. Fermentation enhances accessibility by breaking down structure and introducing microbial transformation. This creates layered interaction, plant chemistry, microbial activity, digestive processing, same food, multiple biological layers. 11. Natto is one of the most specific fermented foods in existence. Produced using Bacillus subtilis, it generates high levels of vitamin K2, MK7, nattokinase enzyme. These compounds are not added, they are produced during fermentation. This is targeted biochemical creation. 12. Aged cheese. Cheese continues changing over time. Proteins break into peptides, fats shift structurally, microbial activity evolves. Lactose decreases during aging, improving digestibility for many people. This is controlled biochemical aging. 13. Fermented Hot Sauce. Salt fermentation replaces vinegar preservation. Bacteria convert sugars into lactic acid naturally. Capsaicin remains intact but exists within a more complex biochemical environment. This creates layered flavor and microbial activity. 14. Coconut kefir, fermentation applied to a plant-based system. Microbes metabolize coconut sugars, creating acids and structural changes. Fat composition changes metabolic response compared to dairy kefir. Same process, different biological input. 15. Fermented Herbs. Fermentation breaks down plant cell structures. This increases accessibility of compounds during digestion. It can also modify solubility and absorption pathways. This is biological pre-processing of plants. 16. Cultured buttermilk. Originally a natural byproduct of butter production. Fermentation reduces lactose and breaks proteins into smaller peptides. It also produces organic acids and B vitamins, a functional dairy system before industrialization. 17. Wild fermented fruit fermentation that occurs without human control. Wild yeasts and bacteria begin metabolizing fruit sugars naturally. This is the baseline form of fermentation. It predates agriculture and likely shaped human evolutionary exposure to microbes. 18. Apple cider vinegar. Two-stage fermentation, sugar to alcohol to acetic acid. Acetic acid slows carbohydrate breakdown by inhibiting digestive enzymes. The mother contains residual microbial activity that contributes to its biological complexity, not just acidity. Residual fermentation biology. 19. Cultured buttermilk, traditional form. Naturally fermented dairy liquid from butter production. Lactose is reduced through bacterial activity. Proteins break down into smaller peptides. B vitamins are produced during fermentation, a naturally stable dairy system used historically for daily consumption. 20. Wild fermented fruit. Origin point. Fruit naturally carries wild microbes. Once exposed, fermentation begins without human control. Sugars convert into alcohols and acids naturally. This is the original fermentation system. No design, no control, just biology. Now step back, this is not 20 foods. It is one repeating pattern. When food is allowed to transform naturally, its interaction with the body changes. Not because it is trendy, not because it is ancient, but because biology is doing part of the work before consumption. You are not just eating food, you are interacting with processes. So the real question is simple. What's the first fermented food you'll actually start using consistently? Drop it in the comments. And if you want the next layer, how this affects energy, mood, and long-term health, subscribe, because that's where this goes next.